All right, today we're jumping into this incredible story. It's about one people on one single peninsula who ended up living in two completely different worlds. And we're going to explore this massive contrast, not with charts and graphs, at least not at first, but through the eyes of travelers standing right on the border, looking into a literal and very mysterious darkness.
So our story kicks off on the Chinese side of the Yalu River. This is where the travelers who documented their journey saw something that was, well, it was both super simple and deeply, deeply strange.
Okay, so picture this. You're looking out from your hotel. On one side of the river, you've got the Chinese city of Dandong, just glittering with lights, buzzing with energy. But then you look across the water to North Korea, and there's nothing, just pure, absolute black. Even with a full moon out, it was just a void.
And that's the central mystery, right? Because they knew that a city, Sinuiju, with over 350,000 people, was supposed to be right there. So, what's going on? Why was it completely blacked out? This question, well, it's the key to this entire story.
And when the sun came up, things just got weirder. The daylight showed that, yep, a city was definitely there. Dozens of buildings, kind of run down, but clearly a city. It had been there the whole time, just completely swallowed by the night. So to really get why it was so dark, we have to zoom out and look at the Korean peninsula the way the source does, as this really rare and powerful natural experiment. It's a chance to see what happens when you take the exact same people and apply two radically different ideas to them.
I mean, think about it. For centuries they were one. Same language, same history, same culture. But after World War II and then the devastating Korean War, the peninsula was split right down the middle. And that split sent the North and the South on two totally separate journeys.
Now, here's the crazy part. You'd probably assume the South had all the advantages from the get-go, right? But it was the complete opposite. After the split, it was North Korea that inherited almost all the peninsula's heavy industry, its electrical power, and its mines. They had the industrial head start.
And this slide, this is the fork in the road. The North went with a strict socialist system. Private business was gone, farms were collectivized, everything was under total state control. The South, on the other hand, chose a capitalist path, one built on private property and markets.
So, let's follow one of those paths. What were the results of South Korea's choice? It's a journey that literally takes them from the rubble of war to being one of the most dynamic economies on the planet.
The results are, well, they're staggering. Today, Seoul's economy is the fourth largest in the world. It's home to global giants, like Samsung and Hyundai. The authors describe arriving there as landing in a completely modern, wealthy, first-world nation where the average income is over $42,000.
And all that prosperity, it translated directly into people's well-being. Since 1960, life expectancy in South Korea has skyrocketed by almost 30 years, from 53 to 82. That's just an unbelievable leap.
And look at this, infant mortality, a really critical measure of a nation's health. It's dropped by 96%. It shows a society that's become incredibly good at taking care of its people, especially the most vulnerable.
This story from one of the travelers just perfectly captures the transformation. He's in his hotel in Seoul, just baffled by this super high-tech toilet, and he realizes he's facing a classic first-world problem. It's hilarious, but it's also a perfect sign of just how incredibly advanced and prosperous the country has become.
Okay, so you can't just get a tourist visa and wander around North Korea. So to see what was really going on, the authors did the next best thing. They took a boat tour right along the Yalu River, and this gave them a raw, unfiltered peek into everyday life over there.
But before we get to what they saw, it's so important to understand the human cost here. Just consider this story from a defector, Yeonmi Park. When she escaped, she was shocked to see a cucumber in winter. A cucumber? That tiny detail speaks volumes about the terrible food shortages and starvation that have devastated the country for decades.
So, from the boat, what they saw was a world that seemed stuck in time. Run-down concrete apartment buildings, workers just sitting around at industrial sites, an amusement park with a Ferris wheel that locals said had never, ever moved. They saw people washing their clothes by hand in the river. It was a picture of complete stagnation, just a few hundred yards from a bustling, modern China.
And right there on the river, you couldn't find a better metaphor if you tried. You have the Sino-Korean Friendship Bridge, which sees some trade, but right next to it is the Broken Bridge. It was bombed during the war, and the North intentionally left it that way.
a monument to conflict, not a connection to commerce.
Now, that view from the river is stark. It's powerful. But the single most definitive view of this entire experiment, it doesn't come from the ground. It comes from space.
But first, let's put a hard number on this split. The economic result is it's a chasm. The average income in South Korea is over $42,000. In the North, it's estimated to be about $1,700.
And this brings us right back to our original question. Here it is, a satellite image of the peninsula at night. South Korea is just a blaze of light, an absolute beacon of energy and activity. And North Korea, it's a sea of black, almost invisible, except for one tiny flicker of light in its capital, Pyongyang. The darkness wasn't a mystery, it was the result.
So the crucial takeaway here is that this isn't just a metaphor. The light and the dark are a direct visual measurement of the consequences of two different paths chosen by the same people almost a lifetime ago. The Korean Peninsula isn't just some historical oddity. It's a clear, real-world experiment with results you can see from space. So the question this leaves us with is, what larger lessons does this incredible tale of black and light hold for the rest of us?